Hey there guys, Bizzleberry here, bringing you a tier list for 10.13 for supports. So we've done lots of tier lists already for every patch. This one is a more minor one. I've mainly just taken a lot of statistics from sites, looking at win ratios, plus, I've also got my own spice to things. In regards to that, I've changed a positioning on a few champions. You'll see them shortly, and the top on tier 1 has had a slight change, so maybe something to look forward to as we progress through the video. So you've got the usual suspects here into tier 5. You're going to see more champions here on this tier list than before in tier 3, tier 4 and tier 5. But tier 5 I don't want to spend too much time. If I had Set and Pantheon, I would put them in between tier 5 and tier 4. I know they get mentioned pretty much every single tier list, but I don't want to put them in because I don't want to encourage play on them, as I feel like they're an extremely niche kind of area to play. Particularly the Set is probably more viable than the Pantheon one, but I wouldn't, apart from like into Yumi, I wouldn't really recommend it to encourage it. So don't do it necessarily. But yeah, nothing really special about tier 5, so we'll just swiftly move on into tier 4. So those are your tier 4s. You can maybe see a couple of champions that I've moved down. We talked about how I predicted that Guardian would be a nerf. We're losing the movement speed, and honestly for me it feels like it is a nerf, but Riot seems to think that they buffed it, and Guardian's getting another nerf this patch coming by reducing the shield value, which I think is crazy. I don't think Guardian is that great anyway right now, and then they're nerfing it again. It's just, I don't understand what's going on with that at all. All it has done is made it so like the champions like Tarek and Braum feel horrible to play right now. It also affected Tom Kench. There's a whole range of different champions that have been affected by it. A couple of enchanters, there's no real point taking it right now. Not having the movement speed was the main element of that keystone, and it not being in the game like that anymore is really silly. So Tarek gets nerfed because of that, so does Braum. I've decided to move Xerath finally down to tier 4. He's a champion I kind of liked playing as support for quite some time, but even I haven't even been playing him much anymore. I've moved him now officially down into tier 4. I don't feel like there's anyone else there. Oh, Brand I've moved down to tier 4 as well. Yeah, he's just getting outclassed by other APs at the moment. The Lux in particular that got buffed recently, and that's been feeling really nice to play. So at the moment I don't feel like Brand is worth playing at the moment, and the same with the Xerath. So kind of sucks that the AP options are a little bit, feels more limited at least at the moment. So fingers crossed something changes there. We'll move up to tier 3. Tier 3 is a lot smaller than what you may have been used to. The only reason I've kept Rakan, you may have see up there, Rakan, my finger's cutting off, but he is receiving a slight W damage buff. It's nothing crazy, but it's slight. Rakan is a champion that takes Guardian. You could maybe start to look at other avenues onto Rakan, like a spell book could work. It could also maybe work on the Braum. But the W damage buff is like nice, but it's like nothing crazy. It just about keeps him into tier 3. He's still an okay champion, especially with Azaya. Swain I've now decided to move from tier 2 to tier 3. He's still a really good champion to climb, I think, from like iron to gold, but after that it's not, the enemy has to not be aware of it, and now I feel like Swain is a champion that most people are aware of. So yeah, I don't feel like you can cheese with him in high elo anymore, but you can still definitely do it in your low elo games for sure. Thresh I think I had higher up in tier 2, but I've put that down to tier 3. I think if you're playing in a very high ELO situation, you can get the most out of Thresh, like people actually clicking the lanterns and things like that. I looked at his win rate and I was kind of shocked on multiple different websites at how low it actually is. So right now, I did nudge it down because that was the deciding factor for that one. But as I said, like for the Swain, like it's kind of like the opposite of the Swain. If you're high yellow, Thresh becomes more valuable. If you're in between iron and silver, I really wouldn't recommend Thresh. I'd recommend like Leona if you want a hard engager. She's A, much more easier to play, and B, doesn't rely as much on your teammates to necessarily follow up. Don't think there's anything else particularly I want to add there. Nope, I'm happy with that. Tier 2, I've done a little bit of changes here. You can see some people that were in Tier 1 have now been nudged down into Tier 2. Nami and Zyra were Tier 1. Zyra I've rated for an extremely long time as probably the best mage support in the entire game. I still think that she's a really good mage option for sure, but it's just not quite as there as someone else who's up there. Nami I've taken down. I've swapped the Nami around with another enchanter. We'll talk about that in a second. I think Nami still wants to gain a really good champion. I mean, all these tier 2 champions are still really good, right? They're just, you know, just only slightly worse than the ones in tier 1. I think Nami is still good, but I feel like she's like lost her oomph a little bit. Just only a tiny bit compared to some of the others. But, you know, if you can land your bubbles and land your skill shots, she's still a really good champion. I had to decide to myself, like, if I wanted to put Lulu in tier 1 or tier 2. I was like really conflicted here of where to exactly place her. I think if you're playing in duo with someone that you can reliably play with and you win lane consistently, I would say Lulu would be tier 1. It's just that RNG factor where if your AD carry is rubbish and you have no one else with an auto attack to work with, Lulu's just not really that great. She's okay still, but she loses a lot of her power. So yeah, Lulu, if you're a duo with an AD carry you can trust, that's when it becomes a really good pick. Leona, you know, I mentioned her earlier instead of the option for Thresh and low ELO. She's generally pretty good in all ELOs. She's definitely the safer option to Thresh when you're looking for that hard engage. And Blitzcrank is a pretty good, you know, Soda Q stomper. He always kind of has. Bard is one of those champions that has a high ELO threshold. Like, if you're very good mechanically, Bard is worth more. He can easily be tier 1 or tier 3, just depending on how good you are with him. And it's kind of the champion as well that you need a lot of games on. So if you want to dedicate a champion to one trick, then Bard is still a very good option for that. Now, Janna is another champion I was conflicted about putting into tier 1 or tier 2. I think she is a contender for tier 1, but and then her win rates at the moment are pretty good too. I would just say that she's very good at disengaging, but in the lane it's just kind of not great compared to a lot of things that are getting played right now. And it feels like Janna isn't quite as good as the stuff in tier 1 at annoying the enemy level 1 in the laning phase and getting an advantage from there, because a lot of the game is just about mental tilt and things like that. And if people lose lane, then they usually don't play the rest of the game particularly well. So looking at tier 1, okay, so Yuumi is, I am putting a lot on the line here that the nerf isn't going to be as bad as people think it's going to be. So if you guys aren't ready or haven't read the notes for Yuumi, Yuumi is going to receive an E base mana cost reduction, but every time you press E, it's going to cost you 15% of your total mana as well. I think the key thing here is that you won't be able to use zoomies in order to speed up your carry around the map quicker. In fights, you shouldn't have mana issues. You'll still be taking presence of mind, especially even more now that you'll get like the mana that you're going to get from the fights from getting assists and stuff is still going to be very important. But yeah, I think people may be being a little bit dramatic about the Yumi nerfs. I think that it was a balance that she needed, because I would say she was the strongest champion. Now this will put her in a decent, like, I think it's a decent nerf. She's still going to be very strong. The heals are still going to be amazing. Go 3 Fairy Charms at the very start, and you should still be good to go. Just, you need to think about your E a little bit more in terms of, like, am I actually using this for a heal, or am I using this as a just getting around the map a bit quicker? I mean, that will probably be the biggest change in terms of getting used to not spamming E randomly all the time. But apart from that, I think she's still going to be really annoying to play against. So I switched Nami with Sona. Once again, I used win ratios for that one. So that was like the main deciding factor. Sona is rough in the laning phase, but mid game onwards, once you hit level 11, Sona feels like most of the time a free win. So as long as your team's not massively far behind, Sona level 11 is huge for your entire team if you're looking for team fights. Absolutely huge there. Just don't feed in the laning phase. Soraka, the most aggressive here, even more than Senna, I would say, enchanter, healer wise. She can really annoy the enemy team by you just take damage and then you Q. And then that gives you a good amount of regen back even if you do take a trade. So as long as you're landing your Qs in lane as Soraka, you got a really good start there. And then Lux, I've switched for the Zyra for the Lux. Now, if you've been watching my channel a lot, I've got a lot of Grandmaster Lux games going. The slow change feels pretty nice to the point where it feels like she's bringing more utility now than Zyra. And the damage is definitely higher. The one thing that I would say is that I would probably prefer Zyra over if I have a Yasuo on the team. But apart from that, like, Lux just feels nicer to play. And a lot of people are taking really squishy champions at the moment. So it's not unusual to get a ult kill on an enemy. So yeah. Those are my top picks for tier 1. I know that 1 or 2 of them are going to be a little bit, you know, iffy for some people. But I feel like I'm pretty good at predicting what's in the meta at the moment. I don't see tanks coming up into tier 1 for a little while unless some of these resolve changes come through. Yeah, that tier 1 Lux is AP. If you're going Enchanter Lux, then nudge that down to tier 2. This is a Lux that has Ludens and like AP items basically after that. You could maybe grab an Athenes and Holy Grail still, but I would just go raw AP, honestly. So yeah, that's your tier list for 10.13. Hopefully it serves you well in solo queue. Nothing too dramatic in terms of the patch changes. Rakan and Yumi changes, and the you've got the resolve changes there as well with Guardian, but nothing too crazy in the patch notes, just lots of thinking and swapping over different champions and stuff regarding and how my own solo queue games have been going and how some of the statistical websites have been placing these in people's ranked solo queue games. So I hope that helps you out. You know, I'm going to be posting this on, if you're watching this on Twitch, YouTube for the next day. And yeah, good luck on the Rift. Take care, guys. Bye.